everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. I know that I promised you guys at the end of Friday's episode that I would be giving you my NFL free agent targets for the Buffalo Bills next month and Brandon Beane on the defensive side of the ball. And don't worry, trust me, I still will be later this week. I promise. Don't worry about that. But I wanted to switch some couple things around a little because I want to give you my thoughts on this whole James Cook contract stuff and this whole kind of James Cook contract situation. Because at the service level, it might not be complicated, but when you dive deeper into the metrics and all the details and the logistics and, if you will, and what have you, there's a lot to go over. So I kind of want to put a needle in the defensive free agent targets till later this week and kind of talk about this before it bubbles up even more or something like drastic happens or significant. I just want to get my thoughts out there to you guys. So anyway, I'm going to break down, obviously the formalities, his age, his height, his weight, but then we're going to actually dig into the tape, if you will. We're going to dig into what are the pros of giving James Cook a big lucrative extension like he wants, and what are the cons of giving James Cook a big lucrative extension if you want. And then at the end, I'll kind of like ballpark what I would give him personally if it were up to if Aiden Weingartner were the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, what would I give James Cook as a fair lucrative extension so compared to what he wants. So let's get into it. So just for the formality of it all, if you are not familiar with the situation, I'll catch you up quick. In the middle of last week, James Cook was on his own Instagram Live, and he pinned a comment saying 15 mil a year. That means it's a new big lucrative contract extension a year early worth $15 million a season. $15 million a year. This isn't some big conspiracy theory from some fan. No, he pinned his own comment. So he is making it very well known that he wants a huge new lucrative contract extension yearly that pays him a minimum of $15 million per season from Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills and his staff and front office and what have you, if you will. In my opinion, I'm just going to get this out of the way. To put it candidly, pretty stupid move by James Cook, if you ask me. You can, as a running back especially, you can say, hey, bud, like, hey, guys, I want a new contract extension a year early. I've put in all the work. That's perfectly fine. But no one really, especially a running back, no one really comes out and says exactly what they want. No one literally comes out and says, I want a $15 million a year extension, lucrative extension, or else. No one really comes out and says, again, I think, in my opinion, in my eyes at least, from a distance, it's okay to say, hey, I want a new extension, but keep the amount internal. Keep it behind the scenes, if you will. You don't need to be coming out and saying, you better give me a $15 million contract. No one specifies a price point right off the bat. I just want to get that out of the way. So pretty stupid move. And as you'll see in my pros and cons, unfortunately, there are a few more cons than pros in my opinion. So the Bills have all the leverage. So now that Brandon Beane and the Bills front office and Sean McDermott maybe probably a lot of input too, and Josh Allen even, they'll probably consult him. Now that they know what he wants, they can kind of work around that. In my opinion, James Cook should have left the specific price point. You can make it public you want a new contract, but leave the specific price point to front office. Leave those negotiations behind the scenes. And another thing, James Cook, I'm not trying to insult the guy, total mute, doesn't speak for 3 years. And I'm not just talking about complaining and crying like Stefon Diggs did and having outbursts. I'm talking about literally speaking, literally being a mute. For 3 years straight, this guy didn't say a word to the media. His press conferences, if you want to call it that, are 2 to 3 minutes max, maybe 4 or 5 on a lucky day here and there. He doesn't speak. The guy doesn't speak. It's a running joke. At the draft coming out of Georgia, he was picked in the second round and he was with his family and he was panned over to totally dead-faced. He was known as the emotionless man after that. That's true because he literally doesn't say crap. I'm not talking about complaining and crying. He literally does not speak. And then all of a sudden, you better give me $50 million a year or else. I guarantee you, his brother, Delvin Cook, is there saying in his ear, well, you better ask for $15 million a year, little bro, or you're going to, or Brandon Beane is stupid not to pay you. Delvin is probably doing that because he felt shafted with the Vikings. He never got what he wanted in his career. Then he gets cut by the Vikings because they don't want to pay him all that lucrative money. And then he tries to salvage career like he actually means anything anymore and does anything anymore with the Jets. Total misfire. Cut halfway through the year, or towards the end of the year rather. And then Cowboys practice squad bounces, but Tom Braxton on active roster. So I guarantee you, I mean, this is a metaphor, but it's true that people say. Dalvin Cook is pretty much living vicariously through his little brother, James Cook. So since he didn't get the bag he wanted, he's going to make sure James Cook gets the bag he wanted, even if it is an overpay, in my opinion. So anyway, let's get to James Cook actual measurables and, age. James Cook is, so he has 3 years of experience. Rookie in 2022, second year in the league in 2023, and then this past year, third year in the league in 2024. So 3 years of experience. We're going to his fourth year in the NFL next year, and that's why he wants before his contract expires, a year early extension. Again, no problem with that, but I do have a problem with him naming a price point this early. In age, 25, will be 26 on September 25th. So basically, 2 weeks after the season starts, he'll be 26. So for all intents and purposes, this is his age 26 season. Height, he's 5'11", weight 190. This height and weight is from the Buffalo Bills official website, buffalobills.com. I Googled James Cook Buffalo Bills. It brought me to their official website, 5'11", 190. You got to trust the official website. I think he's more closer to 195, 198, 200 because he put on some 5 to 7, 8 pounds of pushing muscle this past season. And that's a big deal because he's much better after contact. So I think he's more north of 195, closer to near 200 at this point. But official website, 5'11", 190. Now, Cook's desired contract extension. Again, he came out and said $15 million a year, pinned his own comment. So we know that literally means he wants a lucrative contract extension. His desired price is $15 million a season. He wants to be paid. Well, I won't spoil that yet. I'll go through the top 15 or so highest paid running backs in the league and compare. Now we're going to get into the best part of the episode, in my opinion, pros and cons to a huge lucrative extension. The reason why I use the words huge lucrative extension, because it would be very lucrative. It would be a top 3 paid running back in the league. It would be very huge and impactful on the Bills cap and James Cook's generational future. Pro, James Cook, it's pretty obvious he's continuing to ascend. He doesn't start a single game in 2022. He's really only relegated to a third down passing back because he was behind Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Okay, great. 2023, he is the full-time starter. He starts the majority of games. The only games he missed was the couple that he missed due to injury that year. But he has some deficiencies with contact balance, vision, some deficiencies, but he had his breakout year. In 2024, he once again hit over 1,000 yards rushing. Didn't have the receiving production, but pure rushing at over 1,000 yards, and he's continuing to ascend. Every year he's gotten better and better. 2022, 2023, the 2024, third year in the league this past year, in 2024, I should say rather. He's continuing to ascend. So he's always going to be around 1,000 yards. I don't know how much more ceiling he has, but he obviously is continuing to ascend. Huge pro, in my opinion. Next, this is a really important key relative to the Buffalo Bills offense this past year. In 2024, it's unfortunate to say, but he was one of the only few consistent players that actually perform well. I'm not talking about Josh Allen. I'm talking about weapons, not talking about O-line, Josh Allen. When you go through the players, who disappointed? Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, they all disappointed. But Mac Hollins, James Cook, and Khalil Shakir were the only few players that were a high level, statistically consistent all year, didn't disappoint, maybe overperformed in the case of Mac Hollins, and did exactly what you needed them to, and Khalil Shakir. And for all intents and purposes, for this episode specifically, James Cook. So in my opinion, James Cook is one of the few consistent players, and he can continue to be that if the Bills want to give him this extension. Now, like I said at the top of the show here, if you will, cons to a huge, I'm going to use those words, huge lucrative extension again, guys, because that's what it would be. So cons, in my opinion, in my eyes, to a huge lucrative contract extension for James Cook. Unfortunately, there's a few more cons here that I have. This is an underrated factor with James Cook's success with the Buffalo Bills in 2023, especially this past year in 2024 in his third year at the league. James Cook, I don't want to say he's not good and he's garbage. He only relies on the Bills' offensive line, but James Cook is probably a product of Aaron Kromer's protection scheme more than people care to admit, more than people want to admit, at least, rather. Because Aaron Kromer, easily one of the most respected and gifted O-line coach of the past 10 plus years, of the past decade plus. And I think James Cook, the protection scheme tailors very well to running backs. Yes, James Cook's dynamic and all that. Dynamic athlete, elite receiving back, elusive receiving back. Upped his production from, this goes back to ascending part, before this past year in 2024, he had 4 total rushing touchdowns combined in the 2-year career. This year alone, he had 16 rushing touchdowns and 2 more receiving, so 18 total. But Aaron Kromer, think about his protection scheme. Think about these reference points. Ray Davis was better than I expected as a running back. They made a 4th-round pick out of Kentucky, a 25-year-old rookie, look very good. And no disrespect to Ty Johnson, but Ty Johnson, they made a career special teamer look really good and probably an overpaid into a nice lucrative payday next month in March 2025, this free agency period. So I'm not saying James Cook is only a product of the system, but I am saying that this is an underrated factor, that James Cook is probably more production, is a bit more a product of Aaron Kromer's protection scheme and his O-line scheme, his protection scheme and system, more than people want to admit. Ray Davis comes in better as a rookie than I thought he would be, as a really older 25-year-old rookie. Ty Johnson, no disrespect to him, but they make a career special teamer look more than competent and has even above average production. So I think James Cook's production is more tailored to and more hinges on Aaron Kromer's protection scheme more than people want to admit. Because if he went somewhere that had a so-so offensive line, like let's say the Bengals, someone that actually needs a running back. Bengals, perfect example. They need someone pretty badly to pair with Chase Brown. Let's just live in a world, hypothetically here on Around the Slice, that James Cook is on the Cincinnati Bengals. Offense lines, I don't think it's terrible like it was even 2 or 3 years ago, even last year. But this past season, 2024, it was okay at best. They were pretty messy and bad. James Cook, I don't think he would have close to similar production maybe, but not nearly the same amount of high-level, open field, elusive plays like he has in the Bills and the Buffalo Bills with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane. Because, 1, the Bengals line is terrible, and 2, James Cook is not the type of runner that can mask a lot of terrible to bad to terrible O-line play. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're a more physical, downhill, hammer of runner, like going back to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson were, you can mask a lot of O-line deficiencies and struggles and terrible play. I mean, Derrick Henry did it for Derrick Henry did it for half a decade in Tennessee, even more, pushing a decade, possibly 7 or 8 years, give or take. He masked a ton of terrible O-line deficiencies. So James Cook is not the type of physical runner that can mask a lot of O-line deficiencies, is my bottom line point here. So unfortunately, I do think, well, not unfortunately, it's just a fact of the matter is I don't think people want to admit that Aaron Kromer's protection scheme is a lot of it and tailored to his production. These next 2 points, next point leads into my next point after this. That didn't make sense. These next 2 points go together. James Cook, unfortunately, sadly, is a very poor pass protector. He just is. And it shows, I'll get to this in a couple of minutes here after these next couple of points, it shows in the percentage amount of snaps he plays on a weekly basis. Because, newsflash, this should be pretty obvious, but if you guys didn't know, newsflash, coaches love pass protecting backs. You know the saying, pass blocking is not optional, it's required. Yeah, that's because coaches love those grinders and those guys that can get low center of gravity like Ray Davis, high-level pass protector like Ty Johnson. I'm sorry, but James Cook is like a very poor pass protector. It's kind of embarrassing. He gets ragdolled. I know he put on more muscle, but that was more of a contact balance thing and yards after catch and yards after contact and all that metrics and hoopla there. But I'm not surprised on a bad pass protector. His frame doesn't suggest that he would be even above average to above average one. So he's been in the league 3 years. He's not going to improve it now. He's never going to get in the field and pass blocking sets. And because of that, James Cook is not the third down back. James Cook is not the 2-minute back. He's not the third down back. He's not the closer. The 2-minute back is usually Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. The third down back for pass protecting purposes, short yardage purposes, third and short, fourth and short, third and 1, third and 2, fourth and 1, fourth and 2, stuff like that. That is without a doubt Ty Johnson. The closer, James Cook doesn't really play in the fourth quarter much because the closer, when you're trying to ice the game or run the clock out as best you can, hopefully hits triple zeros. Woo, we won, you're done. That is easily Ray Davis. So James Cook, I'll reiterate again. He is not in the field for the 2-minute drill stuff. He's not the 2-minute back. He's not the third down back. He's not the pass protector. He is not the closer at the end of games, icing games. None of that. Unfortunately, that's not him. Next, I'm going to say this point, and this is very, very important. Obviously, I want you guys to listen to this entire episode to give my thoughts. But if there's any one thing, any one specific point that you guys take away from today's episode of Around the Slice here on this podcast, it is this one. If there's any one thing you take away from this entire discussion I'm having with you guys and giving you guys here today on Around the Slice, take away that only James Cook, this is so important to me, only plays 45% of the offensive snaps on a weekly basis because of the deficiencies with the pass blocking I just described and explained. If you're not going to be a pass blocker, you're not even going to barely scratch 50% of snaps. There's a lot working against them here. Again, if you're not the pass blocker, I'm sorry. If you're not the 2-minute back, closer, third down back, pass protector, you're not going to be in the field overly wild amount. So 45%, that's kind of embarrassing. You're getting like high-level backups plus low-end get-by starters at that point. He wants to be paid like all these other running backs, like CMC, Christian McCaffrey. Let's not use him as an example because this past year was brutal in terms of injuries for him. So he wants to be paid like even more than Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara. Like, no, I'm sorry. Those guys are great, excellent pass protectors. I mean, Saquon and Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs are excellent pass protectors. Alvin Kamara, I wouldn't call him excellent, but he's great. Alvin Kamara is a perfect one-to-one example for James Cook. Alvin Kamara is basically a more veteran, supercharged version of James Cook in terms of his agility, open field elusiveness, speed, athleticism, all that. But the difference is they have a very similar slasher-type play style. Alvin Kamara is a bit more physical, but for all intents and purposes, very similar slasher-type play style. To get back to my point here, sorry, I had a brain fart. Back to my point here, Alvin Kamara pass protects. Very similar play styles, but he's a great to excellent at moments pass protector. So top 15 highest paid RB salaries in the league, and I'll kind of go through just quickly which one I think is better. CMC, obviously he's better when he's healthy, $19 million per year. That's just like a generational payday for him. Jonathan Taylor, $14 million per year. It all goes back to pass protecting, but overall better than James Cook. Saquon, $12.5 million per year, better than James Cook. Alvin Kamara, $12.25 million per year. I literally just described that one. Very similar play styles, closer than you might think. But Alvin Kamara is like a much, much better, excellent pass protector. Josh Jacobs, 5th highest paid running back in the league, $12 million per year. Joe Mixon, $9.875 per year. A few years ago, I would have taken Joe Mixon, obviously, when James Cook was a rookie, even second year in the league. But now I'd easily take James Cook. 7, James Conner, $9.5 million per year. 8, and then you get to 8, David Montgomery, $9.125 per year. 9, Ramondre Stevenson, $9 million per year. 10, Chuba Hubbard, $8.3 million per year. I think James Cook is better than those 3. And Derrick Henry, this is like a steal. Ravens better give an extension a year early because $8 million per year for Derrick Henry, who makes the same exact as DeAndre Swift, $8 million per year. That's ridiculous. Tony Pollard, $7.25 million per year. Aaron Jones, $7 million per year. 15th highest paid running back in the league. I only went 15 deep here for you guys. Sorry. Miles Sanders, $6.35 million per year. So James Cook, by this metric, is the 6th or 7th best running back in the league by my or Derrick Henry. 7th or 8th best running back in the league by my metrics. Going through this list quickly, but like the difference is you don't pass protect. You have those deficiencies I explained. you have those deficiencies I talked about. Ray Davis and Ty Johnson offer more in those short yardage situations, and your deficiencies tailor very well to Aaron Kromer's, going back to Aaron Kromer's protection scheme with Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, even them having production, high level at times, good to great to excellent production. So, in my opinion, James Cook, like, again, if Aiden Weingutner, hypothetically, were the GM of the Buffalo Bills, what would I give James Cook per year? Nowhere close to the $50 million per year. Get out of here with that. I would give James Cook $11 million per year, 3 years, because I wouldn't go, running backs have a shelf life, so I wouldn't go something absurdly freaking crazy like 4 or 5 years. 3 years, $33 million. That exactly pinpoints $11 million per season, guys. And I would have a lot of incentive-laden stuff in the first couple of years. Then you can reevaluate extension, release, restructure, whatever the hell. I don't mean to swear. Whatever after the first couple of years. So that's what I'm thinking right now. But again, if he wants 14, 15, $16 million a year, like at least $15 million a year minimum, I am so sorry, but like, I'm comfortable because Aaron Kromer's protection scheme and O-line scheme and O-line training is so tailored well to running backs. Again, pinpoint back to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson production. Use Sledge some more in some certain packages, tush push, whatever. If he wants $15 million a year or more, I'm sorry, but if the Raiders need a running back so badly, they can't go into the next season with the stupid combination of Zamir White, the three-headed dud in Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, and Sincere McCormick, and Alexander Madison, and whoever else wants to come in there and give them terrible play. If they want James Cook in a trade, they say, all right, Brandon Beane, all right, Buffalo, if you give us a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a first-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and James Cook, because in my opinion, James Cook straight up is worth a second-round pick. So that's the equivalent to your second-round pick. So if the Raiders say, hey, Brandon Beane, hey, Buffalo, we want a first-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and James Cook, and you get Max Crosby. I'm sorry, but in a heartbeat, I would do that. I mean, I think James Cook is way over his skis, if you will, with this contract extension demand. So, again, I have no problem with coming out and saying, hey, guys, hey, bud, hey, pal, or whatever phrase he uses. I want a contract extension a year early, but no one really don't name a price point. Keep that behind the scenes. It's kind of idiotic move. Put it candidly stupid by James Cook. But yeah, I trade it. First round pick, a fifth round pick, and James Cook. It's unfortunate for Max Crosby. And this is a generational running back talented draft. So maybe at 30th overall, you do take Omarion Hampton. Maybe in the second or third round, you do take a Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson. Late day 3, Ola Quint Allen, a Quinshawn Judkins in day 2. I mean, I could go on and on about this running back class. We'll get to more of those evaluations for close to the draft, March and April, which I cannot wait for. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to hop on the mic here quick, if you will, today, and give you guys kind of a synopsis of where my head's at with this James Cook contract situation before it bubbles over even more, which it might be heading towards that direction, unfortunately. I think James Cook sparking this was a very stupid decision, and I think with all the cons I mentioned, Brandon Beane and Buffalo have all the leverage in the world. James Cook has no leverage. Anyways, guys, you can, of course, follow me personally on Twitter at AYNet13. Instant free agency reactions in a month or so, give or take, whenever that is, 2 weeks to a month, whatever. I cannot wait for that. Follow the show on Twitter at RunSlice. As always, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. For more discussions like this, more free agency coverage, more draft coverage, bonus content I'm thinking about, any improvements you guys want in the YouTube comments below, audio side, YouTube, whatever. Appreciate you either way. Please comment down below what you would like. And please subscribe. I know you guys can do it, loyal fans. Please help me get to 50 subscribers. I'm on the road to the big 5-0. Let's get there by free agency, / the draft. This coverage the last couple months and beyond is going to be awesome. Yeah, that's where my head's at for the James Cook contract situation. This was kind of more of a free-flowing, freestyle episode, if you will, but those are just my thoughts on the whole situation before it bubbles over and something drastic potentially could happen, which might be headed that direction, and I'm going to be giving you guys something. So anyways, on the originally scheduled, I had to push it back because of this, though, but on Friday, February 21st, I'm going to give you my defensive free agent targets on the defense side of the ball for Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills, which the team needs, quite a bit of reinforcements on that side of the ball, in my opinion. Way more than offense, at least, from last week. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for the support, as always. This was a really fun episode, giving you my thoughts, anyways, on the whole situation, James Cook, blah, blah. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.